So I am doing gangster movies. So what are gangster movies and why do we love them? So mobs, gangs in general, they usually feature the mafia. However, I do have some on here that do not. And those were actually my favorite ones. They were kind of created to show the decay of American society. They originated with Little Caesar and then Scarface and Public Enemy. They create a sense of power. Most of the movies show like a rise to power or some sort of like storyline where they're fighting the enemy. They show crime, suspense, mystery, action, violence, all things that you love in an action movie. So the first one I watched was Scarface from 1932, not the 80s version. So this is PG. It was originally called Scarface, The Shame of a Nation, and that was to kind of like show that you should not do what they do in this movie because they didn't want to promote violence. They changed it to appeal to censors, and it was still banned in a lot of countries. And it's kind of like, it's not 100% based off of Al Capone, but there's a lot of elements to it. So it shows like a version of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, but not like in a lot of detail. The movie also had to include a prologue condemning gangsters, and the film title was changed to deter people from joining gangs. And I actually have a picture of the opening scene. That's what I had to change. The ending also had to be changed to kind of show the guy not succeeding in life. They shot him. The original release was released in 2019 with a limited edition set of Scarface from 1983. The movie was banned in many countries, as I said. How it depicts gangsters, protective, specifically over female family members, and that's something that shows in like a lot of the genres, like misogyny and just like the feeling the need to protect your female family members. So kind of like his storyline was he didn't want his sister to get married, and she actually ended up marrying one of his best friends, and he did not like that. So the story follows Tony, who is working as a bodyguard for Big Louis Castillo, whom he betrays with his lieutenant Johnny, who takes over Castillo's territory. And so that's kind of like Johnny right there, and that's Tony. So they run a bootlegging business, which Tony wants to take to the north side, where the Irish gang runs a bootlegging operation. Tony also tries to start a relationship with Johnny's girlfriend, Polly. And so the movie does end with him dying alongside his sister. So the next one I watched was Marlon Brando's On the Waterfront. So Marlon Brando is also in The Godfather, which I'll point out here when we get to that slide. So it is currently not rated. It's based off of crime on the waterfront articles, and it features gang and union violence. And so in the movie, Terry is encouraged to testify against the gang who kills his friend. He was kind of like involved in the setup, but he wasn't doing it intentionally. The movie shows gangsters as ruthless and people who follow through on threats, always there, and shows battles between unions and gangs. One of the scenes that kind of show this is there's this guy named Ko, and there's equipment that falls on him at the construction site because he testified against one of the gang members. And so the next one is The Godfather from 1972. So it's based off of the 1969 novel of the same name. It is a trilogy. I have not seen the other two movies. And it follows a Sicilian family. It is rated R, so you do need your parents' permission. Actually, the next couple movies are all rated R. And so, the film was directed by Francis Ford Coppola and is based off of the 1969 novel. It depicts gangsters as like family-oriented. I don't want to say it like this, but I feel like this is the only way to get it to come across. They kind of depict him as a family man. And that's the only way I can describe it, is because he's very protective of his family, and everything he does is for his family. Like the opening scene is his daughter's wedding, and he just wants everything to run smoothly. So it follows the Sicilian mafia family through the years. So it starts with Connie, who is the only daughter's wedding. The story mostly follows Vito Corleone, which is that guy right there who's played by Marlon Brando, and his children. Michael is kind of like the main sibling you follow through the first movie. He starts out like not wanting to be part of the family business, but through like the death of his brothers and like a bunch of other events, and his father getting shot, he slowly starts to become more involved with the family. And it ends with him being the boss. So then the next one I watched is Mean Streets, which is rated R. So you have to get your transformation. His original idea and his director's first critical success is Martin Scorsese, who directed it. So it shows a lot of struggles with religion and family, which is like also something I've noticed through a lot of like the later films is like struggles with being Catholic and also being in the mafia. It features Charlie, who doesn't really want to be a part of the lifestyle, but he works for his uncle, who is a mob boss. And it's like him trying to bail his friend out of all the problems he actively causes. And the film ends, so his friend owed his uncle like a ton of money. And so he had to kind of convince his uncle throughout the movie, like, hey, my friend, he's getting the money. Eventually his friend insults his uncle, like, really badly. I can't repeat what he said. It's that bad. But he ends up getting shot because of it. And so the reason, I had to have this explained to me, the reason Charlie keeps defending his friend, even though he knows he's not going to change, is because he's trying to get into heaven, basically. He's trying to, like, I can't explain this. He's trying to, like, find a justification for his bad actions, like, the good thing to balance out all the bad, and the good thing is bailing out his friend of all of his problems. And so the next one I watched is Reservoir Dogs from 1992. This one is rated R. It features a heist gone wrong. So it has all of these guys who are going to complete this heist at a bank, and they all go by different colors. Like there's Mr. Blonde, Mr. Pink, and just like a bunch of guys who are going by color, so that way they don't know their actual names, so they can't have like their real information. The heist goes wrong because there's an informant, and so it's basically them trying to find the informant and see like who snitched. And it's actually revealed one of them is a cop, and so it's told through flashbacks. So it'll go like them at a restaurant, and then it's them after the heist, and then it's like told through the characters' backstories, the cop's backstory as to why he was doing this. And then it ends with them revealing who the cop is, and then just the police storming into the cellar they were all kind of hiding in, and then just everyone is. So it is a really good movie. I did not think I was going to like it, and I actually really did. It is directed Quentin Tarantino, who also directed Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill. And so this one, it doesn't feature the mafia. At least I don't see the mafia in it. It's just a gang. It's just a group of guys who created their own gang for this one mission. So it does feature organized crime, but not necessarily like your standard mob. So then I watched the first episode of The Sopranos, which is TVMA. It was released on HBO, but it's now Max. There's 6 seasons. So the story is that it's this mafia boss, or like member of the mafia, going to therapy and kind of like realizing how badly he kind of wants to get out of it because he wants to protect his family. They use ducks as an analogy because there's this group of ducks that he's watching, and then they fly away, and then the therapist reveals to him, is like, are you really attached to these ducks because you think that it's your family leaving you when they find out that you're part of this? He's like, probably. And so it sounds like a really silly idea. It's really good, and it actually did a really good job taking it very seriously, because it doesn't sound like an idea that you take seriously. And so that was The Sopranos. And so common themes across all of the movies: family-oriented. Something happens where they're trying to protect their family. Large and in charge is what I put down. So there's always someone who's in charge, and there's always a bigger man. And that bigger man always has to answer to someone else. And then it's just this whole hierarchy. Punishments for not complying. Theirs is showed on the Waterfront with the beams falling down. It's shown in It is shown in The Godfather with the horse head, because there's a guy who didn't want to comply, so they put one of his horses. Misogyny, very common in all of these. Even if it's just like a couple snide comments, there's usually something, and I think it's because it's man-focused kind of like business with the mafia. It's very male-oriented, and there's not a ton of women in it. Punishments for speaking out, again, with the union violence. Power imbalance, so there's always someone who has to answer to someone. The desire to not be a part of the lifestyle anymore, that is for like the mafia films. There's always someone who wants to get out. And then I put down religion because a lot of the movies do show religion in some form. Like in The Godfather, there is a scene where the daughter is being baptized. Michael's daughter is being baptized. And then it's like cutting to scenes where they're killing Carlo, who is his brother-in-law. And the reason they're killing Carlo is because he beat up his wife, who was their sister. So there's always like some sort of contrast with religion, and it's specifically Catholicism. But in The Sopranos, one of the characters is also Jewish, so it's not just Catholicism. That's just what I saw the most. Cultural impacts. So this is what I later added, and this is the beginning of Scarface. Every incident in this picture is a reproduction of an actual occurrence, and the purpose of this picture is to demand the government, what are you going to do about it? So they depict crimes to show failing of its system. There's always some sort of cop being bribed off. There's always people who are taking advantage of the system. It showed a lot of Italian prejudice. And so how I had it explained to me through one of the articles I read is that they're showing it's mostly Italian because at the time that the genre originated, there was a lot of xenophobia. I don't want to say it's racism. Definitely a lot of xenophobia. It's changed now in a lot of the films, but like the earlier ones, there was kind of like that Italian-Irish xenophobia. The Godfather kind of like revolutionized the genre because it showed the mafia from inside. All the previous ones were just like people who were victims of the mafia. This was the first one that actually showed it like, all right, here's a mafia man, he's going to tell you the story. Not a mafia man, a made man, and he's telling you the story. And so it's the power of man that they kind of show. So bonus, I just want to throw this in here. Again, not mafia, but it was released this year. It does show organized crime, and so that's why I threw it in. It's different than the other ones because the other ones I felt like were very Western. This one is not. This one takes place in India. So it features organized crime, including brothels with a restaurant front. I looked it up. Prostitution is technically legal in India, but the process of owning a brothel is not. So it is still organized crime. Illegal street fighting and betting, kickbacks. They bribed police officers, which is kind of like a main point in the movie. And I don't know that he's not explicitly called a cult leader, but I would call him a cult leader. Is running for like a government position, and it's basically following him gaining this power. So I just want to throw this in here. It's not, to me, it's a gang film, but it's not a mafia film. And then sources, and then that's a picture from.
What?
That last picture is from. The previous slide had a picture from Monkey Man, and that was the cop who they bribed off.
So which movie did you like the best?
This is going to be really controversial. I think either Monkey Man or Reservoir Dogs were my favorites. I did love The Godfather. I didn't really, it's not that I didn't like Scarface and On the Waterfront, I just didn't connect with them. But they were still really good, they just were not my kind of gangster movie. So
Different era, so they
yeah.
the stories are different.
Yeah. But I thought all of them were really good in their own way.
I haven't seen Mean Streets forever. I forgot. I'm glad you watched that one. I forgot about that. I totally forgot.
It kind of drags on, but I still really liked it. Yeah. It could have been probably about 30 minutes shorter, but still really good. The longest was definitely The Godfather.
The Godfather's. Yeah. Godfather 2 is really good.
Yeah.
It really is. All right, good job. And what must you do if you watch these already movies? Thank you. All right. Who would like to go next? Well, how about Savannah first? I have to get your. Did you send it to me?
I did send it.
Okay, so Savannah, you first go ahead and get up there, and I'm gonna pop another up with my mouse. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Did you send out an email?
I sent it to Teams.
Okay, okay. All right. Oh, I found it. All right. Give me a sec. Where's present?
There it is. I'm looking.
I mean, what's this warning here?
What country is called? It's not. It's by the American flag. Which means green and purple.
The middle one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about what? U.S.
That's one of the ideas.
Revolutionary War flag.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here we go.
Alright, I'm doing my presentation on the Schultz and Mike Simon. This is a very real reenact picture from. It's,
Wow, did you do that yourself?
I went back there and found a historical image. Alright, this is the background. He was born on August 6th of 1901. His real name is Arthur Simon Blendenheimer. He made a lot throughout his career in looting, even for his early life. Like, as most gangsters, he started as like a teen. I'm pretty sure he stole trucks when he was younger. Either him or Legs would like steal trucks and drive them. Primarily based in New York. Later on, that would be a little important. And then like Simon, or Jack Simon. He's kind of interesting because he's an Irish-American immigrant. So with the gangs being so divided, he had like an Irish gang with also Jewish members. So it's interesting because they were pretty successful, and then they were also more inclusive with the Jewish members up there. And then he was I forgot to mention, they're both bootleggers. But he sold to downtown Manhattan, which is an area that Schultz also sold to. He's very agile, if not. He was a flamboyant dancer and ran a bootlegging scheme in upstate New York, but he got the name Legs due to the dancing skills and his ability to escape the police. He also escaped death so often he seemed unkillable.
Is the rat companion?
Hmm?
Is the rat
Oh.
companion?
Yes.
I think you're on the rat.
They became notorious enemies after, I think, I couldn't find the quite reason, but what the article I read insinuated was that some member of Legs Diamond's group gang killed Schultz's mentor, causing him to retaliate by killing Diamond's close associate Arnold Rothstein, a kingpin in the Jewish mob. So that angered both of them. But they also rivaled over the selling of alcohol in like Manhattan and other areas that they control. They fought over control of various criminal enterprises, particularly within illegal alcohol trade and murder. The conflict quickly escalated to violence and assassination attempts, Schultz being a prime candidate for suspect in the murder assassination of Diamond later on. Bootlegging, this was during the era of prohibition, which is just the prevention by law of the manufacture and sale of alcohol, especially in the US between 1920 and 1933, when these gangs were most active. Bootlegging included the illegal manufacture, transport, distribution, or sale of alcoholic beverages during the Prohibition period. It was enacted under the 18th Amendment and effectively repealed after the 20th Amendment, but it faded naturally because there was an overall massive increase in organized crime. And bootlegging was incredibly popular illegal practice between like all gang members during this time. Gang crimes. Noah Schultz is a gang that was created with Schultz and Joey No, who was his mentor. were prominent in New York during the 20s and 30s. There were lots of crimes, murder. They were very opponents of the Legs Diamond gang. Hudson Busters, formed in the late 1890s by Circular Jack, Kid York, and Goo Goo Knox. The gang began operating from an apartment house on Hudson Street, its its name. It constantly battled smaller rival gangs, including the Fashion Plates, the Pearl Buttons, and the Marginals for control of the Hudson River docks throughout the 1900s, for obviously ships for the they were allies with gangs such as the Gopher Gang during gang wars, which all gangs were very prominent in. They were drug addicts too, so they were known to have cocaine parties, which probably fueled their crimes. The gang also became involved in election fraud, as they were hired out by Tammany Hall politicians in exchange for political protection. One of the gang members ran a pushcart theft ring. The gang, which regularly demanded goods from local merchants, soon attracted the unwanted attention of the police after an incident in which the gang destroyed a saloon after its owner refused to deliver 6 barrels of beer to a gang party. Slide of a mess, sorry. This is just assassination attempts. They deeply hated each other. In 1933, Dutch was ambushed in a New York City hotel, but he escaped unharmed. This is likely due to he had growing ambitions and involvement in the criminal underground ring. So I wasn't sure if this was due to other parties or due to Legs Diamond. And then in 1930, Diamond survived being shot multiple times. I think it was a hotel. And they both escaped several assassination attempts. So we get to Dutch's death. He died on October 24th after being shot in a Newark, New Jersey restaurant. I think he was just eating with his family, which was kind of sad. He lingered for 22 hours before passing in the hospital. The motive for his murder was likely due to refusal to pay income tax on his illicit earnings. And I'm unsure if it was due to no legs owning that. He also had already drew the attention of fellow rivals and the law, so he was kind of had it coming. And Leg's death, he was murdered in 1931 due to gunshot wounds. 2 gunmen entered his room around an hour after Legs returned drunk and passed out in his room on a rooming house. 1 man held Diamond down, and the other shot him 3 times in the back of the head. This, though, had mysterious circumstances leading to various theories about who was behind the assassination. That's from a movie, not like the other one was actually Schultz, and that was just a movie because I couldn't find any. Legacy, they were both notorious American mobsters during the Prohibition, especially in New York. They did appear unkillable, very known, so it was weird when they were killed. And Dutch even remarked to his gang, "Ain't there nobody that can shoot this guy so he don't bounce back?" That's very well known too. Rumored, and then obviously as follows, like his legacy, Dutch was rumored to have a buried treasure trove in the Catskill Mountains, so you know that was. They're just kind of set in stone as some notorious mobsters.
What year was Dutch Schultz killed?
I think it was 35. I didn't write it down here.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, they were everywhere in New York. Most of the people were Chicago, so I wanted to get a couple of kind of famous New York gangsters in there. All right, good job. All right. By the way, Arnold Rothstein was the gambler who funded the first money that would go for the Black Sox camp.
Can I use the bathroom, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, go ahead. Bonnie and Clyde is not popping up. I don't know why. None of the emails are.
I'm checking your sharing. That's what we have to do next time.
Oh, here we go. No, for some reason, emails just weren't popping up at all.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That is all.
Give me one sec. Okay.
Okay, so I did my presentation on Bonnie and Clyde. I'm starting off with Bonnie. Her background, she was born October 1st, 1910. She wrote lots of poems. There are 3 that I actually have later in the presentation. She was previously married to a man named Roy Thornton, who I'll talk about in just a second. Her father passed at 4, so that could add on to why she did what she did in the future. Her start in crime, her husband, Ray Thornton, had multiple brushes with the law, and so they eventually, after 1929, they never saw each other again, but they never officially divorced. And then she met Clive. Her first crime that she did was she failed a heist out of a hardware store. She was put in jail, but she did get released after a few months because the jury failed to convict her. For Clyde, he was born March 24th, 1909. He came from a poor family, so he was involved in a lot of crimes involving money. He was arrested 3 times. I will mention that in the next slide. He went to prison for that and was sexually assaulted in prison multiple times. So he murdered his assailant, and he cut off his toes so that he did not have to do any labor while he was in jail. And then he was paroled February 2nd, 1932. His start in crime, he was arrested for 3 things. For failing to return a rental car, for stealing turkeys, which I don't really know much background about that, but I thought it was kind of funny.
You go to prison for stealing turkeys. Wow.
Yeah, and then he committed auto theft, and then once he was released, he continued to rob banks. He did that to get back at the Texas prison system for abuse, the abuse that he went through, not because of money only. Okay, and then the major crimes. They killed 3 officers in Missouri, including a deputy sheriff named Malcolm Davis in April 1933. They killed the marshal of Arkansas named Henry Humphrey after he was indulged in a shootout with Bonnie and Clyde and their gang in June 1933. They killed a prison guard while they were trying to free their fellow gang member, Raymond Hamilton, from prison in January 1934. Then some more, they killed 2 highway officers after they were running away from a robbery. They killed 1 officer like maybe 5 days later and took another one captive. And then a month later, they did multiple burglaries and bank robberies all throughout that 1930 to 1934. So Bonnie's poems, I got a little bit on this here. She wrote The Trail's End, which she unknowingly referenced her and Clyde's fate in the end of them getting killed from a shootout. Suicide Sal was basically, it was kind of in reference to herself. She wrote it while she was in prison. Something that it said is that a woman betrayed her lover while condemned to prison. And then the story of Bonnie and Clyde is pretty much just populist desperados that were misunderstood and star-crossed lovers that were driven to a life of crime. So it was just a poem about them in general. And then in their downfall, a month after their last killing, they were ambushed in their vehicle in Louisiana while they were making a getaway on May 23rd, 1934, and they both passed from that. And then their legacy, there's multiple books, multiple movies. I did watch one of the, it was in the 1960s, I believe.
Bonnie and Clyde?
Yeah, the 1960s. I watched that movie. I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it.
It's called Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, if you didn't know. There's been books, multiple articles, newspaper articles, all of that sort. They were an inspiration to many future gangsters afterwards. And that's all.
Yeah, so do you know anything about their ambush?
I couldn't find too much. What I did find was that they were making a getaway after robbing a bank, and they were separated from the rest of the gang.
Yeah, they put like 150 bullets in the car, and it was just yeah.
Do you know the body source of his name?
Oh, Roy Thornton.
Warren?
Roy, R-O-Y.
It's not very realistic, but that is a good movie.
It is a pretty good
Yeah,
movie.
it's a good movie. I would recommend it too. But it's probably, I bet it's rated R.
I think it was rated
So
R.
you have parental
Yep,
approval.
parental
Yep, there we
approval.
go, there we go. See, all bases covered here.
And
Good job. Oh, wait.
I was just gonna say the movie isn't fully accurate, but it does have some points that are very similar to the actual story.
And it's entertaining. That's for sure. All right, good job. All right, we're rolling today. Who would like to go next? Uncle Riley, okay? Maybe. Give me a second, let me get rid of this. Give me 1 second. All right, we are rolling. Good job, everybody.
I did Whitey Bulger. So his early life, he was born in Massachusetts on September 3rd, 1929. He earned his name Whitey due to his white hair, and he joined the Air Force after he was attempted a rape in Great Falls, actually. And then his first gang activity, he worked for a janitor for Donald Hillman, and then he took him under as a bookmaker. And he was in a gang war in 1971 between the Killings and the Mullen gang, and this is where he attempted his first murder. And he was part of the FBI. He was an informant for many years, and this protected him from being prosecuted by the law. And then, Bulger and Steve Fleming were sought out by policemen but never brought to trial for murder due to being Italian. And then he was the boss of the Irish mob in Boston in the 1970s to the 1990s, which associated with the Winter Hill Gang. He was a leader of the Winter Hill Gang. They would fix horse races. This gang was founded by James Buddy McLean in Massachusetts. They went from the 1950s to the 1990s. There's over 100 members. They were part of racketeering, murder, fraud, theft, weapon trafficking. He was captured on a flight in 1994. His high-level fugitives were arrested, and then so he was on the run from the law until 2011, and he was arrested in Santa Monica, California, after 16 years on the run. And in trial, he was 30 counts of racketeering, extortion, and murder in 2013. And some of the jurors didn't feel that they got all the information, and it was an unfair trial. And 19 murder victims were referenced in the trial. He's one of the most notorious criminals in America. Changed how informants are watched nowadays, and many books and many movies on him, such as Black Mass Death. And then he got killed. He was stabbed to death in Hazleton Federal Penitentiary in West Virginia. And he, yeah.
Wait a sec. I had a question. So when did he first go to jail?
He was pretty young. I think it was like 1970 or something.
Had to even be before that. I think. No, 71 was his first attempt.
Oh yeah. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I thought it was really 60s because he might have been involved with MK Ultra. Remember, that's a secret CIA plan to brainwash people. All right, good job. Now, Whitey Bulger, I will tell you so I don't forget my one Whitey Bulger story. You want to hear my one Whitey Bulger story? So I was in college, walking out in college in Billings, and there's a lot of guys from out of state went there. And there's this guy in my dorm, and he said he was from Massachusetts, and he was kind of a jerk, and everyone hated him. And he was playing this music we didn't like, and a bunch went through walking and said, we're going to break up. It's a record, an LP, so he's my age. And he said, don't mess with me, I know Whitey Bulger. And we're like, who? I had no idea, but that was my Whitey Bulger story. I know Whitey Bulger.
What was the LP for? Next to the story.
Which one?
What was the LP again? Was it John?
No, that was a different one.
Okay, because you broke so much.
Yeah, I did break an album, yes. John Bon Jovi. I despise Bon Jovi. And even with like Bon Jovi, I think we gotta discuss it. I see your eyes moving. You probably like it. Yeah. He was playing Living on a Prayer over and over again. I walked in his room.
That's not even the best song. I break it too.
There's no best song.
Yes, there is. See, I break it.
By the way, I personally met Bon Jovi.
Did you tell him Canada?
Yes. We can do one more. Who would like to go? I'll go. Okay.
Okay.
Pretty Boy Floyd, an outlaw. Hey, good presentations today.
We have one more after that.
Hmm?
Don't we have somebody left?
We have Gabe.
Do we have somebody who looking?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We have Lucky. We have Evelyn.
Because there's a lot of
Teddy. Yeah, so we got.
That's Stephanie Lane, isn't she?
Huh?
The Stephanie.
Yeah. Yeah, she has a really good one. So, but Evelyn hasn't been here for a week.
She's
with the overall organization. I had just assumed he can move over.
Say it again.
He's so entwined with like the whole organization that I'm presenting on that I just have to assume he knows what he is.
Yeah, so maybe we'll try to go. I think Derek will be here tomorrow, so we'll go grab him first. Just a sec.
Evelyn has the food right now.
Hmm?
Evelyn has the food right now.
Oh, okay. I knew it had to be summer. You miss a day or two, because she's missed like 4 in a row.
Yeah, she's missed all of them this week so
Oh,
far.
shoot. All right, we're ready. Go for it.
Okie dokie. Yay, Pretty Boy Floyd. All right. So, he was born in Bartow County in Georgia. Born in 1904 to his father Walter Lee Floyd and his mother Mamie Helene, I'm guessing. And then he moved to Oklahoma, which is around 957 miles away, when he was 7 years old. Okay, the start of his crime life. So, he was 18 when he first stole $3.50, which now would be around like $50, something like that. Not exactly sure. And it was from a post office, weirdly enough. So he was arrested. In 1925, three years later, he was arrested for a payroll robbery, which is when you fraudulently screw the payroll system to get money you didn't actually earn. Nice. He was sentenced to 5 years, but after 3.5, he was granted parole because of good behavior. Oh, jeepers. Okay. So, his name, Pretty Boy, he's actually named Charles Arthur Floyd, but he soon got the name Pretty Boy after his payroll robbery because
a judge said that he was like a pretty boy with apple cheeks. So he quickly got that name, and it stuck for, well, ever. And the reason why he was named it is just because of how he dressed. He always dressed nice, always had like button-up shirts wherever he went and whatnot. So, oh my goodness. I did something.
Just let me.
No, it's fine.
Hey, how we doing? Did it work? Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah, it starts transcribing. And about half the words will be incorrect. So, all
Yeah.
right, go ahead.
All right. So, the plan. So, Charles, he was a gangster, and he was, for a while he worked alone, and then he became a gangster, worked in the gang, he had his own gang, whatnot. Anyways, so there was a plan to free a man from going back into prison. His name was Frank Nash, and he escaped from his 25-year sentence. 3 years after he escaped, he was found, and then he was about to be, well, they were driving him back to where he escaped from. So, somehow, everyone heard about it. All the gang members, all these people, they found out about their friend going back into prison, and they thought, no, we have to make a plan to help him escape. Whatever. So, so a bunch of different people came up with the plan. Richard Talman, Herbert Farmer, Louise, all these people. And so Vernon Miller, he was assigned to free Nash. And he decided, I need backup. So he called up Pretty Boy Floyd and Adam Ricchetti, and they agreed to be the gunmen to shoot all the cops down. This was called the Kansas City Massacre, because people died. So, the gunfight started on June 17, 1933 in the morning, around 7-8 a.m. supposedly. And some of the survivors, they said it lasted about 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, around like 5, 6 people died. So, that's nice. All these people died, including Frank Nash, which they were trying to help rescue, and instead they killed him. So that was stupid and idiotic, and that was the end of that. So, he's now a murderer. Yippee! But supposedly, after the Kansas City Massacre, the cops, they got a letter from him saying that he wasn't actually involved, and that people mistook someone else for him. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea if there's enough evidence to support that, but supposedly it sounded pretty genuine. I don't know. He also said that Adam Ricchetti wasn't involved as well. I have no idea if it's true or not. No. Death. He was killed in 1934 on October 22nd. There was something happened with a car. I believe it was him and someone else. I'm not sure if it was Adam Ricchetti. Anyways, they were in a car, an accident happened, then he fled, and he only got, well, not that far, but they later found him 2 days later. Oh my gosh, that doesn't make sense. Around 2 or 3 days later, he was found, and they were going to just arrest him, but he pulled out his gun and shot a cop. So they killed him about twice and died. That's the end of that. So obviously he's a gangster. It's just plain and simple. Worked alone for a while, then he made his own gang and died. So he's been arrested all over, really, in a lot of different places. And he robbed around 10 banks. I'm not sure the exact number, but around that, probably more. Although he became a murderer, he was viewed as Robin Hood of the Cookson Hills. Because supposedly I'm not sure if it's a myth or not, but he burned mortgage documents whenever he would rob a bank. He would burn mortgage documents and free people from debt. Supposedly. I don't know if that's true. Not sure if there's enough evidence. That was just something that a lot of people thought. Legacy, a lot of things were made for him. Movies, books, all that is well known even now. The end.
That's a pretty good book. And so how many banks did you rob again? What did you say?
Around 10.
Yeah, got lost a lot of fun. Yeah, that's where I first heard of him, was a lot of
Yep.
burning
Yeah.
mortgages, yeah. All right, good job today. Yeah, pretty much close to outlaw. Oklahoma knew him well. All right, we'll finish up the rest of these tomorrow. Then we'll see about Friday. We have to have the test coming up pretty soon. We have to have a mini unit, and then we start.
Yes.
We got to hit your rock and roll. And so I'll talk about it more on Friday, but I will actually give you the assignment for History of Rock and Roll, even though we're going to do a smaller unit right before it. On Friday. That's not fun. We can start kind of going through your choices and what you can do. I kind of do the roots of rock and roll, and you do the rest. It's a fun one. I enjoy History of Rock and Roll. Oh, I should add. That will be a 2-page paper, History of Rock and Roll.
Okay.
And that will be your final. The 2-page paper is your final.
Seniors and members, right?
Yeah. Seniors, and then and everything goes right. We'll try to do everything. We'll try to do everything before finals.
What are we gonna do at the end?
Huh? We might run out. I know, that's one thing. It would be a fun one, but that takes a few days to set up, and yeah. Sound good? Are you excited? For tomorrow. Hopefully everything. Awesome. That's one of the centerpieces of a class with me. You fill notebooks up. Oh, I'm going to see if I have the rock and roll assignment ready.
Let me see the
Yeah.